Thanks for stopping by my channel. Hope you're all doing well. Well, I'm excited to say that I finally got my visa and I'm almost ready to move to Vietnam. So in this video, I want to be talking about how much did I save for housing in Hanoi and where do I plan to stay when I'm in Hanoi. If you're thinking of moving to Southeast Asia and Vietnam in particular, stick around for the rest of the video. Okay, so looking at how much money I saved for Hanoi. Well, let's first start with the cost of living. Now, if we look at the cost of living for one person in Hanoi and Taipei, you can see that Hanoi is roughly about $700, which is actually up from last year by about $50. So this is the first time that I've seen where it costs more than $700 to live in Hanoi. So for those people who are saying you can live in Asia for $1,000 per month, maybe for the next few years, yeah, but I think every year things are just going to get more expensive. So you're going to have more money than $1,000. But in any case, if we look at Taipei, it's around $1,200, so a little bit more expensive than Hanoi, but still a lot cheaper than the West. And that's why I live in Asia because my dividends go a lot further and my quality of life is a lot higher. Now, this is just an average quote for a local person. If you're an expat, you're going to need a lot more than these values. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this value as a benchmark and times that by six because I want to save about 6 months of rent before I move. So my goal was to save about $4,200. Now I used XPay, which is a covered call ETF, which does options on the S&P 500, is a monthly payer and yields about 20%. So I held this for a few months and it paid me roughly about 90 cents per share. So every month I'd receive about $990. So from January to April, I collected distributions and hit my goal. So afterward, I moved the distributions into a fund called SGov. It sort of acts like my savings account. And if you watch other sort of finance or dividend channels, you'll see that some people actually use this fund too. Now, for the remaining money that had an XPay, I moved some of that into cash and into some other higher yielding ETFs. And I'll talk about that when I do a portfolio update in the next few months. Okay, so moving on to the main reason for this video, where do I plan to stay in Hanoi? So I did a lot of research over the last couple of months, looking through a lot of different applications, and it just seemed like Agoda had the best options. Now, I've been to Vietnam several times, but this is the first time that I'm thinking of living there for long term. And so I looked at these three neighborhoods, Tay Ho, Khao Dai, and Ba Dinh. And if you're not familiar with these neighborhoods or districts, let me show you a quick map of Hanoi. I got this from Asia Odyssey Travel. If you're interested in maps, they have a lot of good ones on their website. Okay, so looking at the yellow arrow, you can see that it's pointing to a spot called Hoang Diem. And this is a pretty touristy area. It's where most people go for their first stop in Hanoi if they're visiting Vietnam. Now, it's a really cool place, a lot of fun things to do, shop and eat, but it's still a touristy area. And if you're an expat, you may not want to live in that area. So for me, I thought about moving to Tejo because it seems like a lot of expats live there, but it is also a pricier area, and they do cater to foreigners. Have to pay a little bit more money there, so I don't want to live there and pay more money. Kaozai is a pretty modern place, but a little bit too far for me from places that I like to visit in Hoang Diem. So I thought maybe Ba Dinh would be kind of the best alternative because it's close enough to Hoang Diem where I can bike there or even walk there, but far enough where I won't feel like I'm living in a touristy area. So a lot of the research that I'm going to show you is in the Ba Dinh area. Okay, so looking at the three options that I saw for service departments. Now, if you don't know what a service department is, it's kind of like a residential hotel. So it's different than a regular apartment. You have like a month to month type of contract. You don't pay utilities, so water and electricity is included. And there's usually no deposit or key money. So I like service apartments for those features. If you look at the first option here, the first option will have about 30 square meters or about 300 feet of living space, and you can find some pretty good places for under $500. Now, with these places, generally you get a pretty nice bed, sometimes a double up to a king size bed. And you get a little bathroom and maybe a small refrigerator and a kitchenette, kind of like a college dorm room with a big bed. And these are pretty good if you are planning to only stay short term, but because I'm planning to stay longer term, I don't want to feel like I'm living in a hotel or living out of a suitcase. And I'd actually like to host some events on my place sometime. So for me, I'm just looking for more space and more functionality. So option two is the one that best appeals to me. It's about 30 to 60 square meters or about 500 feet, and the price ranges from $500 to $900. For me, I think the sweet spot is somewhere in the middle. So let's have a quick look at some of the apartments that I found. So the first one I saw was Zen Hotel and Apartment. It's about $500 a month. And I won't talk about all the amenities, but let me just tell you some things that I like about this place. I think this is true for all service apartments. You get like a cleaning person. So imagine every week you have fresh, clean sheets and the room is cleaned for you by the hotel. So I really like that feature. And in these places, I also like that it has a Western looking bathroom. Now, that's probably the main reason for me for getting a service apartment because if you get a regular apartment, you might actually get like a wet bathroom. And in those wet bathrooms, especially in Asia, it's usually just like a toilet and shower in the same area. So your floor is always wet and everything else is too. So I prefer a Western kind of bathroom. So that's one of the big perks of, having a serviced apartment. Okay, so looking at this place, you can see that the bedroom is not as big or nice as the previous place. But, with these places, there's always some sacrifice you have to make. Either you have a nicer bedroom and a smaller living area, or a better, more functional living area and a smaller bedroom, or something about the kitchen is missing or the bathroom. So there's something that you always have to give up in these kind of places. Now, if we look at the balcony, this is a pretty sizable balcony. So you can see that the living space isn't too big, but if you have some friends and want to have a little party outside, you can on your balcony. So I really like this place. You look at the bathroom, no bathtub, but a pretty nice walk in shower. And for someone like me, I actually prefer that over a bathtub. Okay, now once you cross over the $600 mark, places look pretty legit. And this is Zoe Setai Suites. Looking at this place here, you can see that pretty good natural light. You don't see a picture of a balcony, but they do have a balcony. Bathroom is not as big, but still Western looking. And these places, usually the kitchens are a lot bigger. You can see that the refrigerator is huge in this place. So if you're a person who actually likes to cook or do something in the kitchen, then the 600 to $700 mark are going to have a lot of places with nice kitchens. Now, one thing you'll notice here is there isn't really a partitioned living room area. So if you're like a gamer or an office person, like you work at home, then you probably have to, put a desk somewhere in the kitchen area, which is not a bad thing. It just seems more like a studio than an apartment. Okay, at 22 housing. Now, once you cross over the $700 mark, I find that you don't have to make a lot of sacrifices to live a high quality life. And if you have a player two or a long term partner, then these are probably the places that you want to look into. Now, for me, it's really important to have natural light, something that you might not always find in places that are under $500. You don't get a super functional living room and dining room area, but you get something, you get enough. And you do get a nice kitchen. And maybe one of the differences between like a $500 hotel and a $700 service apartment hotel is that maybe the washer is also a dryer. Sometimes it's just a washer and you have to hang dry your clothes. And some other places, you don't even get a washer dryer. So you have to go to like a place next door, like a laundromat or something. But when you're in Vietnam, it's actually pretty cheap to just take it to the cleaners and have them clean it for you and have it ready the next day. So I might actually do that sometime. I'll make another video on that. Okay, now for option number three, these places are can be 60 square meters up to 100 square meters. I saw some really nice places in Agoda, but again, over $1,000, not in my budget. And I don't want to spend that money on my living place. I want to spend that money on experiences and sending money back home. So But if you have a player or two and you have a little bit more money, or maybe if you have pets or something like that, then option three is probably going to be your best bet. Now, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed some of my research that I did in Hanoi. And again, this is more of like a finance travel channel. So I'm just sharing how someone like me, who's living off of dividends in Asia, actually survives and has a high quality of life. So if you're interested in having a higher quality of life, having more purchasing power, and moving to Asia, please like and subscribe to this channel. And you also might like these two videos. All right, thanks again for stopping by my channel. Take care and see you in the next video. Peace.